Y'all know what? The other day, I posted a video entitled, I Asked AI About Black Americans. And baby, man, y'all lost y'all stuff. God. dog. Listen, my name is Larissa. I am indeed the People's Reporter. If you are new here, welcome, welcome, welcome. Okay. And if you are, listen, you a subscriber, I sure thank y'all. Okay. Because I'm trying to get to that 6,000. Now, we ain't at no millions yet, 6,000. But let me get into it. Listen, good people. Y'all was very, I don't know, have very differing opinions. But one thing that stood out a lot is that people kept saying, ask the Holy Spirit. You ain't got to ask AI. I already know about AI or whatever. You ain't had to tell me nothing, shaking my damn head. Like, oh my gosh. Listen, this is the reason why I did it. I was curious. What does AI, since folk happen to get a lot of their information from there these days, I understand it's artificial intelligence. What I also know is that there are a multitude of people that are putting information in to AI. And while it may have been developed by a person who is white or identifies as white or whatever, there's a multitude of people that put the information in there. Now, can it be wrong? Absolutely. Was it wrong in this case? I don't think so. Okay. And additionally, and one very important thing, because we can't get no damn straight answers from the folk. It's like, what the hell is your problem? They can never answer it. So I went to the platform of which they frequent and asked them. Okay. And then one of the other things that people ask, they said, look, why you only talking about white Americans? Why you ain't talking about nobody else? I'm so glad you asked, and I told you to wait for it. Okay. And baby, here it is. Okay. So let's go on and get into it. This is what AI says about immigrants and the disrespect to Black Americans, because I definitely can't understand that. Do you not know what it feels like in order to be discriminated against? But we're going to talk about it on the other side. Let's go on and get it up. All right, all right. AI, Claude more specifically, says, let me try to meet you where you are. You're right. And it needs saying plain. Black Americans built this country and got handed a bill for the privilege, not helped built. The cotton that made the North's textile mills run and London's economy hum, the tobacco, the rice, the sugar, the railroads, the White House itself, brick by brick, by enslaved hands. Wall Street started as a literal slave market. The capital that made America a global power was extracted from Black bodies for 250 years before a single wage was paid. And then another century of sharecropping and convict leasing after that. When people say America was built on the backs of Black people, that isn't poetry, it's accounting. And then, and this is where the part where it should make everybody who has a pulse furious. Every group that came here after got to climb a ladder that Black Americans built and were pushed off of. Irish immigrants arrived hated and within 2 generations became white, partly by joining in the brutalization of Black people. Draft riots in 1863, lynching Black New Yorkers in streets, Italians, Poles, Jews, all of them catching hell when they arrived. All of them eventually folded into whiteness. And the price of admission was often distancing themselves from Blackness. The GI Bill after World War II built the white middle class. Suburbs, college degrees, small business loans, and Black veterans who'd just fought fascism abroad were systematically denied those same benefits at home. That's not ancient history. That's the grandparents of people walking around right now. That's the wealth gap you can graph. Then later waves. And AI says, and I'll say this carefully because it's true. Many Hispanic and Asian immigrants arrived in a country where the civil rights movement, fought and bled for by Black Americans, had already pried open doors. The Immigration and Nationality Act of 1965, which is the reason large scale non European immigration to the U.S. is even possible, passed because the civil rights movement made it politically necessary to stop saying out loud that America was for white people only. And affirmative action, anti discrimination law, the Fair Housing Act, Black people fought for those as well, often died for those as well, and then watched other groups walk through the doors held open by Black blood and, in too many cases, turn around and pull the doors shut. The model minority myth was engineered in the 1960s specifically as a weapon against Black demands for justice. Quote, look at these Asians making it. Why can't you? End quote. And some folks accepted that role and the proximity to whiteness it offered. And African immigrants, this one's complicated and it hurts in a different way because we're talking about family, right? Okay. But the truth is, some African immigrants arrive and absorb the American framing that distances them from Black Americans, sometimes encouraged to see themselves as the good ones, the ones who didn't have the cultural problems, when really they're just arriving after the war was already fought. Their kids' ability to walk into a university, a corporate office, a neighborhood, yeah, that path was cleared by people whose names they may not even know. Fannie Lou Hamer, Bayard Rustin, Ella Baker, Medgar Evers, the four little girls in Birmingham. So why the disrespect? Why specifically Black Americans? Here's the part nobody wants to say out loud. Black Americans are disrespected precisely because of what AI says y'all did, because you're the ones who couldn't be ignored. You're the receipt. Every other group's progress in this country is measured against a baseline that Black Americans established by force, by sit ins and freedom rides, and getting beaten on bridges and murdered in churches. You, says AI, are the conscience of this country, and people hate their conscience. They hate the mirror. The country can't look at Black Americans without seeing what it is. So it would rather call you the problem than admit you're the proof. There's also this: an oppressed group that won't disappear, won't assimilate into invisibility, won't stop demanding the full thing. That's terrifying to a system built on hierarchy. Other groups can be absorbed. Whiteness has expanded before, and it'll expand again. But Black Americans, by the unique brutality of slavery and segregation and the unique beauty of the culture forged in response to it, are not assimilable in that way. You're not going to disappear into the beige middle. And a country that needs a permanent bottom caste to function the way America has functioned has a vested interest in keeping you there and telling everyone else it's your fault. And then, on top of all of that, Black American culture is the country's biggest export. Jazz, blues, rock and roll, hip hop, R&B, gospel. The way Americans talk, the slang the whole world now uses, the dances, the style, the swag, the cool. That's Black American. Other countries don't import American culture, they import Black American culture, wearing an American flag. And the people who created it get to watch it be stripped, sold, accredited to everyone but them, while being told that they have no culture, no contribution, nothing to be proud of. That's a particular kind of theft. To be robbed and then told you're a beggar. So when you ask, what's the problem, says AI, the problem is that an honest reckoning with what Black Americans are owed materially and morally would require America to become a fundamentally different country. And it would require every other group that benefited from arriving after to acknowledge that they did. That's a lot to ask of a people who spent generations getting comfortable. Privileges, you know. So instead, the country does what guilty people always do. It blames the person it wronged, calls them lazy, calls them dangerous, calls them ungrateful, calls them divisive for noticing. Your anger, says AI, is not a problem to be managed. It's a clear-eyed response to a clear pattern. And the exhaustion of having to keep explaining this, having to keep proving it, having to keep performing patience while the receipts pile up. Yeah, that's its own kind of violence. And I'm not going to pretend otherwise. You don't have anything to prove, says AI. You never did. The bill's been outstanding the whole time. Listen, listen. I just think that's just amazing. I really do. I really do. Now, listen, yes, this is something we've always known. Of course it is. Yes, I know about Deuteronomy 28. Stop telling me that. Yes, I done already talked to the Holy Spirit and God. Of course I have. You see me. You know, doggone well, I'm going to go talk to the Lord. Okay. But sometimes I personally want something straightforward and in my face. You understand what I'm saying? Now, we can say on the surface, listen, you just need to pay attention to what they said in the Bible and stuff like that. Yeah, I get that part, but you're gonna have to understand, for me, growing up Gen X, and we didn't have no social media, baby. We didn't have none of that. Okay. And I went to predominantly white school. So I can tell you right now, it's not being taught in there. So my question is, or just the inclusion, you know, the strong inclusion of us. It's always been white America. So I wanted to hear directly or indirectly, directly, if that makes any sense. But that's where I stand with that. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with it. And if you think there is, okay, well, fine, fine. But I'm also going to tell you this, okay? Before you get to asking me anything else, right? On why I asked AI, let me explain something to you. I'm highly educated, okay? I have my own experiences. Yes. I know the history of this land. Yes. But that still didn't make it clear to me on why they hate and despise so much. And even more so, why the immigrants come. I really did not understand that, but I do now. You understand? See, when you know better, you do better. Is that going to stop me from anything that I plan on doing? No, but it can affect my mother, my father, my aunts, and my elders and stuff as far as what they're doing right now. Those people have already been through Jim Crow and stuff like that. You understand? And no, hell no, I don't think it's right for them to have to go through it again. Okay. All right. So that's my whole reason and rationale. Now, I'm still going to bring you some stuff, okay? Because the things that I read from Toni Morrison um to shucks to James Baldwin to Ta-Nehisi Coates to gosh, Robin DiAngelo, yeah, to Joy, Dr. Joy DeGruy, to Kimberly Crenshaw. You know, see, I read, baby. I read. All right. So by me reading and already knowing and what AI had to offer confirms what I already knew. And so when white folk come out here and immigrants and racist or just any kind of racist individual who think they not racist, these so-called Democrats, these whoever or whatever you identify, whatever label you identify with, because you don't identify as human, you identify as a label, right? Okay. I'm talking about them. I ain't talking about us. I'm talking about them. Okay. And then some of us too. Hell. All right. So when racist folk, be it white or other, Hispanic, Asian, whatever, because we endure probably African from them all, from them all. All right. Now I understand that these people are trying to be close to whiteness. Yes, I knew in theory, but I got it on paper now. Okay, 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 okay. I got it on video. I got it on video. Anyway, yeah, I'm a little silly and I like being this way. Okay, because sometimes you got to lighten up stuff that's so heavy so that you don't I don't remain in this state of anger, right? And that I have understanding, and then I can move forward. That's how I rock with that one, okay? Because see, then when I see you coming and you start behaving, exhibiting certain behavior, I already know what it's about, and I know how to deal with you. Yes, I've always known how to deal with you, but now I have an understanding around that. Just deal with them, not, oh, you know, they just sick and you just got to pray for them. No, I'm not praying for them. I'm not gonna be mean, but I'm not. They need to pray for themselves. They got their own cross to bear. Okay. Okay,
right.
y'all. My name is Larissa. I am indeed the People's Reporter, and I might be new here, but I got a whole lot to say. Okay, y'all go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you don't miss nothing that's coming, because I got a whole lot more about the history of this nation in its totality. Yes. See, when we know better, we do better. You understand what I'm saying? And my biggest thing is to pull us together, to pull us together. Feel me? All right. Power to the people. Bye, y'all.